Good morning, dear students, and welcome to Science 1. I'm Miss Kumud, and we have already started with the lesson Chemical Reactions and Equations. Now, let us proceed further with chemical equations. Let us take an example of zinc dust when added to copper sulfate solution. You know that the color which is formed after the reaction is colorless, that is of the zinc sulfate solution. So it's a type of a chemical change. So chemical change can be described in more precise and concise manner in one line. It is not necessary to describe the chemical reaction in a detailed manner. It can be written in one line. For example, when we write aqueous solution solution of copper sulfate and zinc is added to it, we know aqueous solution of zinc sulfate is formed and copper is getting displaced. So this is a type of word equation. So it is a simple way of representing a chemical reaction in words. So it is also called as word equation. Word equation can be also written in a further condensed form by using chemical formulae. And so the representation of chemical reaction in condensed form using chemical formulae is also called as chemical equation. So in this equation, if you see copper sulfate, that is CuSO4, and zinc, that is Zn, reacts to form zinc sulfate solution, that is ZnSO4, and copper particles. So here the zinc sulfate is the product have totally different properties from that of the copper sulfate. So the ionic bond in this reaction breaks up during the reaction, whereas ionic bond is formed in the product side, that is ZnSO4. Now let us run to write the chemical equation in a condensed form. Let us see what are the conventions for writing. So the one which are written on the reactants are written on the left hand side, whereas the products are written on the right hand side, and there is an arrow which indicates the direction of the equation. So it is always pointing towards the products. So when two or more reactants are there, it is always indicated by a plus sign in between the reactant, as well as even if there are more than two products on the product side, then there is a plus sign drawn between the products. So now, to make the chemical equation more informative, the physical states of the reactants and the products are written like if there are gaseous, liquid and solid states, these are written by writing the letters G, L and S in the brackets. Moreover, if suppose the product is gaseous, then it will be indicated by an arrow pointing downwards. Whereas if the product is insoluble solid, instead of writing S, we show an arrow pointing downwards. So that means a precipitate is shown by an arrow pointing downwards. So if the solution is in the form of, if the reactants are in the form of a solution, then they are shown by the letters AQ in the bracket. AQ means aqueous, or it means that the reactants are dissolved or the products are formed afterwards are in the form of a solution. So to indicate solution, instead of writing S or G, we are writing here aqueous, or it is instead of writing L, we are writing AQ in the bracket. You can see over here in this reaction, that is hydrochloric acid is in the form of aqueous solution, and even sodium hydroxide solid is dissolved in water, which makes the solution of sodium hydroxide also written. So it's a solution, so it is AQ is written here. Whereas even in the case of products, if it is in the form of a solution, then it is written AQ, whereas the water is in the form of a liquid. So here you can understand the states of all the reactants and products. Now, if the reaction is taking place under heat, or if the heat is required for the reaction to proceed, then delta sign is written above the arrow pointing that it is the heat is required for it. For example, in this case, when calcium carbonate, that is also called as limestone, is heated, we get calcium oxide, that is also called as slake lime, and carbon dioxide is a gas which is shown by an arrow pointing upwards. So certain reactions also require certain specific conditions, like for example, if there is a release of the heat in the chemical reaction, that is indicated on the product side by writing heat. You can see in this reaction that when copper zinc dust is added to copper sulfate solution, the gas is released. Now in certain for certain reactions, there is need of certain specific conditions, like it will be proceeding further only when the conditions like temperature or pressure or catalyst are required for this. Like in the case of formation or making of the vanaspati ghee, there are several conditions required. Like for example, vegetable oil, when reacted with hydrogen gas, it is heated to around 60 degrees Celsius, and nickel is required as the catalyst so that the reaction can proceed faster. Okay, so the conditions, specific conditions over here are temperature, that is 60 degree, and nickel as the catalyst, and the product formed is vanaspati ghee from vegetable oil and hydrogen gas. So in this way the special conditions are written. Then next, if suppose the special information or names of the reactants we have to write, they will be written below the chemical formula by writing their chemical names. Copper concentrated nitric acid reacts to form to give poisonous gas of nitric oxide, whereas if the same reaction, instead of concentrated nitric acid, if we use dilute nitric acid, then nitric oxide is formed. Now let us proceed further with a small activity. Let us see what are the things required, apparatus required for it. So the apparatus required for this activity are nothing but a test tube, a beaker, conical flask, and a balance. Now let us proceed with the activity. So the chemicals required for this are sodium chloride solution and silver nitrate. First, take sodium chloride solution in a conical flask and then add silver nitrate solution in the test tube. Tie a thread to the test tube and insert it carefully in the conical flask. Now make the conical flask airtight by fitting a rubber cork. After this, weigh this conical flask in the test tube. It indicates the weight, that is 300.23 grams. Now tilt the conical flask and mix the solution present in the test tube with the solution of the conical flask. What do you observe? Yes, there is a white color precipitate which is formed. Here the sodium chloride reacts with the silver nitrate solution to form the white precipitate of the silver chloride, and sodium nitrate is formed. So is there a change in the weight after weighing? No, the weight remains the same, and it follows one law called as the law of constant mass and proportion. So that you have already learnt in standard 9th, that the weight of the reactants is same, the weight of the products is same as that of the weight of the reactants. So here the mass or the weight does not change. It remains the same even after the chemical reaction. So now let us learn to write this chemical equation in the form of a word equation. So word equation will be silver nitrate when reacts with sodium chloride, we get the white precipitate of the silver chloride and sodium nitrate solution. So now let us know about the uses of the silver nitrate. Silver nitrate is used in the water's ink. Also, it is used to give colors to the ceramic tiles. It is also used as explosives in the manufacture of the explosives, and also it is used in photography as well as the preparation of the dyes. So, we will learn about writing the or balancing the chemical equation in the next video. Till then, thank you, dear students.